The dust rose in slow spirals beneath the wagon wheels as Caleb Hart rode back toward the ranch. The late afternoon sun stretching his shadow long across the plains, and for a moment he felt the weight of 17 lonely years pressing down on his shoulders, years carved out of wind, drought, and silence since his wife Mary had been lowered into the earth, leaving behind a house that still echoed with children's laughter, but never again with the warmth that reached his own heart, because everything he did now was for his daughters alone. For Emma, with her sharp eyes and old soul silence at 10 years old, and for Lily, 6, curious and bright, still believing the world would always answer her questions kindly, both of them waiting on the porch when he dismounted, their feet dangling, hope lighting their faces as he smiled and told them what he had promised, that tomorrow they would go to town and they could pick anything they wanted, anything reasonable, he added with a tired chuckle. Dolls or candy or books, but Emma did not answer, her gaze fixed beyond him, toward the dry ravine cutting through the land like an old scar. And when Caleb followed her stare, he felt that familiar tightening at the base of his spine, the instinct that had kept him alive, because there was movement where there should have been none, stillness pretending to be stone, and calmly, too calmly, he sent the girls inside, reached for his rifle, then stopped as memory interrupted fear, Mary's voice whispering that not everything unknown was an enemy. So he approached alone, and there, seated in the ravine dust as if she had grown from the earth itself, was an Apache woman, her dark hair loose, her skin marked with dirt and dried blood, wounded but unbroken, her eyes lifting to meet his with a steadiness that robbed him of words. And when he told her she was on his land, she answered simply that she knew, that she wanted no trouble, and neither did he, though silence stretched between them heavy with history and unspoken loss. And he saw the way she guarded her side, the shallow breath that meant she would not last the night. And when he told her so, she answered that if she died, it would be on her feet, and something in that quiet pride undid him. So he offered her one night in the barn, water and blankets, nothing more, and she accepted with a single nod that asked for no mercy. And that night, Emma watched from the window as her father carried those blankets. And the next morning she asked who the woman was, and Caleb called her a guest, only for a little while. But days turned to weeks, and the guest did not fade, because the woman Ayana healed slowly and spoke softly. Yet the girls listened as if the land itself had found a voice through her, as she taught them words older than the ranch, showed them how to listen to the wind, repaired Lily's broken doll with careful hands, and sat with Emma through nights when dreams turned dark. And Caleb watched it all, the way the house seemed less hollow, the way laughter lingered longer, the way a woman who had lost everything still found gentleness to give. And when the evening finally came, that he sat his daughters on the porch and reminded them of town and of choosing anything they wanted. Lily clapped and named candy while Emma stayed quiet, then took her sister's hand and said they had already chosen. And when he laughed and told her they had not even gone, yet she looked at him with eyes far older than 10 and said they wanted Ayana, that they wanted her as their mother, and the words struck him like thunder, because behind them, unseen but listening, Ayana stood in the doorway, her breath caught between fear and hope. The words the girls spoke did not fade into the air but seemed to settle into the soil itself, heavy and irreversible, and Caleb Hart felt his breath stall as if the world had tilted beneath his boots, because children did not ask such things lightly, and his daughters had never spoken with careless hearts. And yet every lesson of survival, every warning carved into the frontier, screamed that nothing in life was ever that simple. So he did not answer them right away. He stood there staring at the horizon where the sun sank low, feeling Ayana's presence behind him like a held breath. And finally he told the girls to go inside, gently but firmly, promising they would talk later. And Emma obeyed, though her eyes searched his face for truth while Lily clung to her sister's hand, and only when the door closed did Caleb turn, finding Ayana still standing there, her posture straight despite the pain that lingered in her body, her face calm, but her eyes guarded as if she had already prepared herself to be sent away. And he asked her if she had heard, and she nodded once, saying, "Children speak what adults fear." And that answer unsettled him more than anger would have, because she was right. Because his daughters had spoken aloud what he himself had been too afraid to name. That the house was empty in ways work and routine could not fill. That grief had taught him how to endure, but not how to live. And yet he told her that it was not so easy, that the world would not allow it, that people would talk. The danger followed her like a shadow, and Ayana answered quietly that danger followed her whether she stayed or left. That she had already lost her people to soldiers and sickness and broken treaties. That she had buried a child with her own hands and watched the land that knew her name turn against her. And as she spoke, Caleb saw not weakness, but a strength shaped by suffering he could barely imagine. And later that night he lay awake, listening to the wind scrape against the walls while memories of Mary rose unbidden. Her laughter, her kindness, the way she had once said that love was not replaced but expanded. And when morning came, it brought visitors. 2 men riding in with dust on their coats and suspicion in their eyes, claiming they had seen an Apache woman near the Hart Ranch, and warning that the army would not look kindly on such hospitality. And Caleb felt anger burn in his chest, but kept his voice level, saying no one had seen what they thought they saw. And when the men left, Ayana told him she would go before she brought harm to his children. But when he gathered the girls to explain, Emma stepped forward and said that family was not chosen by blood alone, but by who stayed when it was hardest. Words no 10-year-old should have known, but spoke with unwavering certainty. And Lily wrapped her arms around Ayana's waist as if afraid she might vanish. And something broke open inside Caleb then, something that had been sealed since the day he buried his wife. And he realized the danger was not in letting Ayana stay, but in sending her away. Because the land had already witnessed their bond, and once the land decided, it did not forget. And as the sun climbed higher over the plains, Caleb Hart understood that the choice before him would not only change his family but draw lines that could never again be erased. The storm came at dawn, sudden and violent, as if the land itself had decided to test the choice that now hovered over the Hart Ranch, thunder rolling across the plains while rain cut the dust into dark rivers. And Caleb stood in the doorway, watching Ayana move calmly through the chaos, guiding the horses, steadying the frightened chickens, shielding the girls with her own body when lightning split the sky. And in that moment, he saw her not as a guest or a wounded stranger, but as someone who already belonged. Because when fear arrived, she did not flee, she stood. And when the storm passed, it left behind a silence so deep it felt sacred. And Emma broke it by asking her father if families were always born or sometimes made. And Caleb knelt before his daughters, realizing that no law, no whispering neighbor, no uniformed soldier could outweigh what his children already knew in their bones. That love was an action repeated every day, not a title granted by permission. And when he turned to Ayana and told her she could stay, not for a night or a season, but as long as she chose, her composure finally cracked, tears tracing paths through the dust on her cheeks as she whispered that she would protect them with her life. And Lily smiled as if the world had finally settled into the shape it was meant to hold. And though danger still waited beyond the horizon and the future promised struggle rather than ease, the ranch no longer felt empty, because that morning the house filled with the quiet strength of something real, something chosen, something rooted deeper than fear. And as the sun rose over the wet plains, the land bore witness to a family claimed not by blood or demand, but by courage, compassion, and the simple truth that sometimes the heart knows long before the world is ready to understand.